This is VOA Africa.
It's Wednesday, November 27th. This is Africa 54. Torrential rains and flooding kill at least 39 in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why is Nigeria's ASCA committee urging Nigerian filmmakers to use more native languages in their productions? We'll explain. And in our technology segment, the future of digital banking and financial technology. We begin tonight in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where over 36 people are dead following torrential rains and landslides that have devastated parts of the capital near the University of Kinshasa. Lucy Fielder has the details.
Torrential rains and flooding have killed at least 39 people in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, authorities said on Tuesday. Heavy rains caused landslides near the University of Kinshasa, collapsing houses and roads. Resident Andre Mwamba lost his home.
Thankfully, we moved what was inside the house, and then later in the morning, the house gave in, and it has caused what you are seeing here. We are trying to empty the things from our belongings, to distribute them here and there amongst our neighbors, who agreed to help us for 1 or 2 days.
Floods are not unusual in Kinshasa, a city of almost 12 million people with notoriously poor infrastructure. Rescue workers are continuing to hunt for bodies.
That was Lucy Fielder of Reuters reporting. To West Africa now, where 13 French soldiers died in Mali Monday night when their helicopters collided during a search for Islamist militants. The helicopters had been called in as aerial support for ground commandos during an intense gunfight with the extremists. Meanwhile, troops from Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania and Niger are seeking to assert control of the region. James Riebaki reports.
French soldiers sweep the border zone between Mali and Burkina Faso on the trail of jihadists or of any clues that might lead to their capture. After several minutes of marching, their hunt bears fruit. They find a motorbike and a bag. These seemingly insignificant objects can yield valuable military intelligence. For 15 days in November, French troops set out across the lawless region where the borders of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger meet. Head of the operation, Colonel Lemerle, has called the area a jihadist sanctuary.
It's a cross-border region, so you can easily cross from one side to another, and it's a very inaccessible region with cover and a complicated trafficking network. So it's an ideal area to hide and handle a logistics network.
French troops are participating in their first joint ground operation with the armies of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger. Known as Bourgu 4, the 1,400-strong military operation is meant to tackle the rise in jihadist attacks in the region over the past few weeks. Northern Burkina Faso has been particularly affected. Not long ago, soldiers couldn't even enter the region.
We intend to really show the population that we are present and that we are ready to help and fight by their side.
It's no easy task. French intelligence intercepted messages from a prominent jihadist and traced his telephone to a location accurate to within 300 meters. Tension rises. The soldiers have orders to fire without warning, but after 5 hours of marching, they reach a village where everyone has already fled.
We regularly receive intelligence, but the difficulty is in reaching the target quickly. We often reach the target and they've had time to escape.
The joint forces face an elusive enemy which melts into the population. The result is that the French army suspects every villager of being a jihadist. The soldiers let nothing go, even if their actions upset the local population. There is a vast gulf between the French army's resources and the resources of the Sahel armies, but close cooperation is still an imperative.
They don't have the same logistics or equipment as us, but they have important knowledge of the ground and they want to work.
Numerous challenges abound, however. The armies of border countries are still working out how to cooperate, a process which is not without friction. On November the 16th, for example, Burkina Faso accused the Malian army of abuse carried out in a village in its territory.
Our thanks to AFP's James Ribaki and Adrian Barbier for that excellent report. Now, senior doctors at Zimbabwean public hospitals went on strike on Tuesday to protest against the dismissal of junior colleagues who have boycotted work seeking higher pay for nearly 3 months, deepening a crisis in the country's health sector. Zimbabwe is experiencing its worst economic crisis in a decade that has seen resurgent inflation soar to triple digits. Senior doctors had continued to provide emergency services after their junior colleagues walked out on September 3rd. At least 448 junior doctors have been fired, and many more are awaiting disciplinary hearings. Two former Guinea-Bissau prime ministers advanced Wednesday to a presidential runoff vote, according to official results from the Electoral Commission. Domingos Pereira finished first with 40%, and Umaro Sissoko Embalo came in second with 28% of the vote in the November 24th first-round poll. Electoral Commission President Jose Pedro Sambu told reporters that because neither candidate garnered the 50% votes required to win the presidency outright, they will face off in a second round on December 29th. Incumbent Jose Mario Vaz finished a distant fourth after a tenure marked by infighting and corruption scandals. In East Africa, a program in Kenya is working to rehabilitate prisoners by teaching them farming skills to enable them earn a living once they are out of jail. Serena Chondri reports.
In the Central Highlands of Kenya, Duncan Nderitu is hard at work. After serving a 5-year term in jail, he's now back at home growing maize and coffee on his 3-acre plots. Convicted in 2013 for handling stolen goods, he became the beneficiary of a program that equips inmates with farming skills, enabling them to become productive once they're out.
I trained in organic farming and mastered it very well. When I completed my jail term, I came back home and started practicing organic farming. I turned it into a business that can help me support my family and stay away from crime, so that I don't end up in prison again.
Rather than focusing on punishment, Kenya's government says it's trying to turn prisons into rehabilitation centers. Inmates can learn a range of skills from organic farming to animal husbandry, carpentry, tailoring and hairdressing. Over 1,300 inmates have graduated since the program began 2 decades ago. The impact is proving far-reaching, with former inmates like Nderitu sharing their knowledge with other community members. His wife Beatrice says he's helped others to grow food for their families and run profitable businesses.
I was not harvesting anything from the farm, but now I get a huge harvest. We are farming. What I can say is that I have seen firsthand that Duncan has reformed. And if he finds people who can support him, he will go far. He's working very hard. Even the neighbors agree that he is working hard.
Serena Chondri of Reuters with that report. Now, an international report from researchers at 35 institutions say climate change will threaten the health and quality of life of children born today. The report also reveals that rising temperatures will lead to more diseases, extreme weather, and risks of food insecurity in future generations. Here's VOA's Arash Arabasadi.
After nearly 8 years, California emerged from its longest drought of the millennium, just before the start of fire season. Experts say higher temperatures from climate change make for drier vegetation, which provides ready fuel for wildfires. This is just one example of how a warming planet will affect public health in the future, says Dr. Nick Watts, Executive Director of the Lancet Countdown.
If we continue down our sort of current trajectory, it comes close to wiping out the last 50 years of gains that we have seen in public health all around the world.
An international report by the Lancet Countdown says a baby born today is likely to see the Earth warm 4 degrees by his or her 71st birthday.
In terms of the health impacts of climate change, this is anything from the spread of vector-borne diseases like dengue, like malaria, the spread of Vibrio, and that particularly, again, it's children under the age of 5 that are the most vulnerable.
Watts says as climates warm, unwelcome disease vectors will thrive, like the Asian tiger mosquito.
It's moving up from Turkey, coming across Europe. That tiger mosquito carries dengue fever. It carries chikungunya when it's there. It carries yellow fever. If you're in South America, that tiger mosquito can carry Zika virus as well.
Scientists are most concerned about the overall long-term impact of global warming on public health.
We're not worried about just heat wave and what that does to heart disease or kidney disease. We're not worried about just malnutrition. We're worried about what happens to a community, to a population, to a child born today when they are hit again and again and again by, from multiple different angles, and how that has a lifelong impact the whole way through.
Researchers say it will take political will to avert dire outcomes. The authors are calling for next month's United Nations Climate Conference to focus on the health impacts of a warming planet. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News, Washington.
The Nigerian Oscar Committee is urging its filmmakers to use more native languages in their productions. This request follows a recent case where the U.S. Academy Awards disqualified a Nigerian entry in the international feature film category because the movie used too much English. Although some Nigerians support the idea of more native languages in films, others argue that non-English films limit their audience reach. Timothy Obiezu has our report.
Nollywood filmmaker Desmond Utomwen is aiming for a U.S. Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Award, widely known as an Oscar, by producing a film in a native Nigerian language.
It's actually an Hausa-based film, so it's a language movie. It's not English. I've done a couple of them in English, but that was actually my first film in Hausa.
Most Nigerian filmmakers make English language movies to reach a larger audience globally, but also inside Nigeria, where the former British colony made English the official language.
In Nigeria, if I do a purely language-based film, I have made my film a regional film in Nigeria. So it will not appeal or get the audience traction that it needs in the other parts of the country.
But that tide may be slowly turning after the Academy Award this month disqualified Nigeria's first entry in the international feature film category because most of the movie's dialogue is in English. Only 11 minutes of Nigeria's entry, Lionheart, the first Nollywood film by Netflix, was in the native Igbo language. While the rejection was roundly criticized in Nigeria, the Academy's rules state more than half of a film must be in a non-English language to qualify for that particular award.
If you look at the bigger picture, you realize that it's a victory in that we made a submission for the first time, ever. And what that does is that it repositions, the Nigerian film industry and repositions the hearts and minds of filmmakers as to how we are going to tell our stories moving forward.
Nigeria's Oscar Selection Committee says the rejection should motivate Nollywood filmmakers to create more movies in the country's over 500 native languages. But convincing Nigerian filmmakers to turn away from English, the language that ties the country together and with the world, will remain a challenge. And for some Nollywood filmmakers, the language used is not the point.
If someone sits in their living room and decides where my movie should be, on what platform or what award I should get, that is on them. I've done my job. I've fed the artist in me.
While a Nigerian film won't make the February Academy Awards, being rejected and having the backing of Netflix are already drawing more international attention to Nollywood and what Nigerian filmmakers produce next. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja.
You're watching Africa 54. We'll be right back.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. Meet Wandile Mabaso, chef and owner of Johannesburg's hottest new restaurant. Located in the upmarket Bryanston neighborhood, the newly opened Le Créatif features a fusion of contemporary French South African cuisine. His dishes feature influences from Thai, Moroccan, and Mexican cooking, but his dishes are rooted in Soweto. He uses familiar South African ingredients, such as a coarse flour made from maize, or the popular spicy relish chakalaka. He also incorporates what some may consider poor black food, such as amabele and amasi in some of his dishes, evoking memories that many South Africans grew up with in the townships. Next up, researchers in Britain have programmed an artificial intelligence robot to intentionally rebel against its human controller's wishes. It might sound like Hollywood's next sci-fi thriller, but experts from the University of Bristol say it's helping them develop machines that can collaborate with humans on tasks. The AI robot uses eye gaze tracking and knowledge of the task to make short-term predictions. It could pave the way for smart robotic tools that help workers complete manual tasks quicker and more accurately. And finally, Tesla shares rose 4% on Monday after Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk tweeted over the weekend that the company had already received 200,000 orders for its futuristic Cybertruck pickup. The new truck, made of stainless steel used in rockets and priced at $39,000 and up, failed to impress Wall Street last week after its armored glass window shattered in a launch demonstration, and analysts argued the design would not have mass appeal. Tesla opened pre-orders immediately and allowed potential buyers to book the truck by depositing just $100. Tesla plans to start manufacturing the Cybertruck in late 2021. And that's what's trending today.
Now, people worldwide are fascinated by the political warfare and impeachment inquiry into U.S. President Donald Trump that's ongoing in Washington. Trump is accused of improperly pressuring Ukraine to investigate the family of his political rival Joe Biden, a charge he strongly denies. From London to New Delhi, Moscow to Johannesburg, Henry Ridgwell looks at world reaction to the impeachment process.
With an election imminent, many Britons see their own political chaos mirrored across the Atlantic.
Both the US and the UK are rivaling one another for levels of dysfunction in government or lack of ability to get things done.
Polls suggest fewer than 1 in 5 Britons has a positive opinion of Donald Trump, and that's echoed in the views of many watching the impeachment process play out.
Even if it goes through the House, I really hope that the Senate really stand up and do something about it. He shouldn't be president, he should be impeached.
In Paris, there is mixed interest in Washington's political battles.
I think it's a good idea. It allows democracy to function.
A lot of people followed right after he was elected, but I think now it kind of died down, I guess. People don't care that much.
There is greater interest in Russia and seemingly greater support for Donald Trump.
They elected Trump, but now they want to take the decision back. That is wrong.
I think this is a political struggle. Biden's team is just looking for compromising information to make Trump step down.
The US may be a strategic rival, but Russia's President Putin doesn't necessarily welcome his American counterparts' political problems.
The only US president who can fix problems with Moscow is a strong US president. So if Trump is under impeachment, it definitely weakens his positions.
With 1.3 billion people, India is often called the world's biggest democracy. Here, there is admiration for the principle of impeachment.
It means that it's a very fair it's a proper democracy at work. We need to be more accountable. Our leaders need to be more accountable.
Opinion is divided on President Trump himself.
I really hope justice prevails and he is thrown out.
They just want to bring him down, score some brownie points,
and talk of the town. That's it, I think.
Cairo resident Sameh Ghanem sees echoes of Egypt's own leadership in the alleged actions of Donald Trump.
وموضوع الانتخابات ده مصلحة شخصية إن هو بيدور على فساد.
He is only interested in personal gain. He will look for corruption in others when it helps him.
At the opposite end of Africa, in Johannesburg, opinion is again divided.
I think he's doing just fine. Yeah, so I don't see the reason why he should be removed.
It doesn't bring a nice thing in America. That is why he should be removed, Donald Trump.
The impeachment process could go on well into 2020 as the US gears up for its next presidential election. Each twist and turn will be followed closely across the globe. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
It's time for our technology segment, and joining us now is our tech reporter, Paul Ndiho, with a look at digital currency. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Esther. Africa's fintech ecosystem grew nearly by 60% in the last 2 decades, according to a new report by Disrupt Africa, thanks to mobile technology startups leapfrogging into the future. Last week, tech, finance professionals and investors from across Africa and around the world gathered in Addis Ababa for the Africa Fintech Summit to discuss the future of financial technology and banking. For more, I'm joined by Akin Swear, Strategy and Governance Lead for Decred, an autonomous digital currency platform. Mr. Swear, welcome to Africa 54. So bring me up to speed. How was the conference in Addis Ababa?
The conference was really good. I think it was, the first time for lots of Africans and Westerners to come to Addis Ababa and really see what Ethiopia was about. So it drew people from East Africa, West Africa, and it was really focused on fintech firms that are really building the future of financial services. So in that regard, it was a really interesting gathering.
Why Ethiopia? A lot of people say that Ethiopia is a closed country, but it seems to be opening up when it comes to the technology side.
Yeah, so I mean, Ethiopia has recently elected a new president who actually won the Nobel Peace Prize recently for some of his work. And the country has been opening up over the last few months at a really fast pace. So they just deregulated the telecom sector. They're looking at financial reforms. And they're really opening up the country for the first time in a few hundred years to bring in investments from around the world, but also find strategic partnerships from other entities within Africa.
Who are the key players when it comes to fintech?
So a lot of the key players, oftentimes in lots of African countries, the banks play a very important role. They're becoming more and more innovative. But then you have lots of fintech startups, like Flutterwave, that are beginning to develop. Just M-Pesa is a pretty well-known platform out of Kenya, and so Africa is really going into this idea of mobile financial services and being mobile first, and financial innovation is really accelerating across the continent.
You are one of the key speakers at the conference. What is it that you're pushing for?
Yeah, so I work for an entity called Decred, which is a digital autonomous organization. It's kind of extending this idea of not just having a cryptocurrency, which we do, but really thinking about how you build a fully native digital entity, right? So everything from currency that underlies markets, but the ability to have voting rights within the entity, the ability to make sure that anyone can participate, so it's permissionless. So we're really kind of taking this idea of cryptocurrencies and projecting it a little bit further and saying, what do future organizations look like? How can we create a digital commons where anyone, regardless of where you are, where you're born, can actually have a fair game and a fair chance of participating as the world, continues to go global and become a lot smaller.
When you talk about digital currencies, a lot of people don't understand what it is. What is it that you guys do?
So I think fundamentally, when you talk about digital, cryptocurrencies, what people really miss is this idea of we're innovating the future of money, right? So I think lots of people are used to fiat currencies, getting your money issued by a central bank, but that wasn't always the case historically. Central banks are an innovation over the last 100 years. And so what we're saying is look, the future is digital, the future is mobile, that people should have more control of their money. And with the advent of Bitcoin, there's now been a way that people can actually control, hold the money and actually understand the monetary policy around these digital currencies, right? So whereas you might have a central bank that inflates your currency, which is what most fiat currencies are, cryptocurrencies tend to have what we call programmable money, where the monetary policy is fixed. Over time, in essence, as people work within those digital economies, value should accrue to the currency, right? So it's rather than being an inflationary currency, it's more a deflationary currency.
Then why is it that a lot of central banks, for example, are scared maybe to regularize or to figure out a way of authorizing these digital currencies to work as a form of currency?
Sure, but it's an issue of control, right? If you think about the nature of central banks control money, and beyond just central banks, nation states use money as a tool, right? The US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. And because of that status, the US government has a lot of power, whether it's through sanctions or through leveraging the currency to control other countries. Right, so with digital currencies coming onto the fore, it's a threat against the current power structure. And we're really trying to create a movement that gives power back to the people. And in many ways, it sort of aligns with the democratic ethos of individuals having democratic power. And so we're trying to basically pull things back to a purer sense of individuals having individual sovereignty, having the ability to control your money and your wealth, but also having that power to vote and exercise that vote. I think in Decred in particular, we're creating an ecosystem where it's not just about the currency, but it's being able to be part of a community where you have those rights, and those rights can never be taken away from you.
Well, Mr. Sweya, I would like to have you on another edition, but for now, I thank you so much. That was Akin Sweya, a strategy and governance lead for Decred. That's it for today's Tech Report. Back to you, Esther.
Paul, thanks. Be sure to join Paul Ndeho each Wednesday for Africa 54's Tech segment. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a very good evening.